Join me today as we contemplate, is Star Wars being ruined on purpose? This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name's Bobbie, and we're going to contemplate a hypothetical that the possibility of this occurred to me the other day. That maybe Star Wars is being ruined on purpose. Now, what do I mean here exactly? Well, we've seen that they've produced several substandard expansions of the franchise, seeming to have no real plan and just kind of throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, and then being surprised that basically none of it is sticking. Now, to be clear, I don't know if I myself believe this to be the case, but I could see the argument that this is being done on purpose. And I think if that is the case, I don't think it started to be the plan when Disney bought the franchise, because that would be silly. I think it was probably sometime after The Last Jedi. Not The Last Jedi. Well, maybe The Last Jedi, but probably after The Rise of Skywalker came out. Because you notice since then there have been no feature-length films. It's all been Disney Plus shows. And everything else, it's just like everything seems to be going downhill. Now, we have the exception of Andor, but Andor could have also been a fluke, because if it is considered conceptually what Andor was, like whenever it was proposed, it was, hey, let's take a relatively boring character from Rogue One and build a show around him and give it more episodes than the other shows. And so, you know, if that were the scheme, I could see whoever's sitting there be like, hey, yeah, let's do that. There's no way this will succeed. And they just happen to get people behind it who are going to actually make it work. So, why would they do this, though? Because that would be the real question if this were the case. And again, I don't really subscribe to this idea, but you know, again, it hit me the other day, and I thought, well, you know, I mean, some of the facts do fit the idea, so maybe that is the case. And I don't think this is some kind of like weird version of the producers where they have like bet money someplace else that the thing is going to crash and burn. I think, although not directly, I think that they have, if this were what they were trying to do, I think they would be looking for a different payoff entirely. And I think that payoff would be to just reboot the entire franchise. Because I mean, let's look at our facts. They seem to do everything they can to piss off current fans. They know fans of the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, by definition, almost have to be older people. They know these people aren't going to be around forever. So, as a long-term corporate plan, not a personal, I might live to see this to fruition plan from like Iger, but more like a, I'm going to set this up and make sure my successor knows that this is the plan. Or maybe he thinks he'll live forever or some stupid shit. But, yeah, like once you realize that the public seems to hate Kathleen Kennedy, just keep letting her go. Just keep letting her destroy everything. So that eventually you'll be forced to retire the brand. You know, kind of like whenever you have to let a field set fallow for a while. And then, once, you know, enough time has passed, and it couldn't just be 5 years, it'd have to be 10, 15, it'd have to be a lengthy period of time. Of course, you'd fire Kathleen Kennedy, And then you'd be like, well, we've hired some new young director to try to revitalize the franchise. And we're going to go back to basics. You know, there'd be all kinds of PR corporate speak. And then basically, if they could keep a lid on it, it wouldn't be almost until the first trailer drop that you'd realize they're just going to remake the movies. Now, maybe they'd remake them in order, so they'd start with The Phantom Menace, or maybe they'd remake them in release order and start with A New Hope. I don't know. But if they could do that, then they would control the branding. For their sake, they would hope Lucas would be dead at that point, so he couldn't be around and be like, hey, what the hell are you doing? You know, they'd have most of the original cast, you've already lost all kinds of people from it anyway, and given 10, 15 more years, you'll probably lose several more of them. You know, you'll have the people that were in the prequels, but, you know, is Natalie Portman really going to come out and be like, I can't believe they're remaking the movies and they remade my character? Probably not. Hayden Christensen might, but, you know, I think a lot of the others won't. And so then you'll control the branding, and it'll be some stupid attempt to recapture lightning in a bottle. You know, thinking, well, if we could just from the get-go, if we just controlled everything, you know, these people won't be like, oh, you know, this isn't like the original movies, this isn't like the original movies, this isn't like the old EU. Be like, well, all that's gone. That's the past. You know, this is the real world, this is the present. Let's just move on. And they'll hope that they can capture, you know, a new generation of kids to buy into it and everything else. And yeah, I mean, that would be the plan. And I think it would spectacularly fail. But, again, like I've mentioned about the movie Tenet, there's a moment where, you know, character's like, well, will this actually succeed? And the other character's like, doesn't matter if it would or not. The people that are doing it think it will, so they're going to do it. Now, again, I don't have any proof at all that anyone at Disney is even contemplating this. This is purely a, you know, my mind just kind of wandered a few places, and I just, you know, came up with, well, let's suppose for a moment Disney were trying to torpedo everything. Why? And this is really the only answer I could come up with, because it doesn't make any sense if they're going to sell it, because they would devalue it in the process. They'd never get their money back. There is no, like, as far as I'm aware, there's no, like, way to ensure that a movie succeeds, and if it and you can, like, bet against it, so that, you know, like the whole producers thing, I don't think can actually work. Yeah, so I don't know why you would intentionally torpedo it, which is why I don't think they're intentionally torpedoing it. But if they were, you know, this is the only reason I can think of that makes sense. Now, I think Disney plans on doing this anyway. I think, whenever I say Disney plans on doing this, I mean, some people within Disney would probably love to do this, and the only way it's going to happen in their lifetime when they're at Disney is if things spectacularly fail. Like, for them to really try this, it'd have to be out of the public's mind, like I said, for a good probably 15 years, maybe 20 years. Because A New Hope and the original trilogy were just such a cultural juggernaut. You're not just going to be able to sweep in and, you know, in 2 years, but yeah, we're going to remake it all. Yeah, I mean, you'll get shills like the doofuses that, you know, watch all the stuff with bated breath and say it's all great. They'll be like, yeah, this will be great. It'll be so much better than the original A New Hope. George Lucas, you know, is such a fool. And everyone else will be like, no, there's only one fool here, and you only need a mirror to see it. And, you know, those people will love it, you know, because those people I don't think are actual Star Wars fans. They're in love with Star Wars, like, as an idea, as a concept. If only they could change everything about it and get rid of the other fans, then they'd really be in love with it. In other words, they're, you know, non-fans. So, I don't know who the crowd for that would be unless it were just so far down the road. And then the hope would be to capture the child audience and basically repeat the current cycle, except, not screw it up. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think that's the actual plan, but, if you look at their current actions, like, you do kind of have to wonder if they're not intentionally trying to destroy things. Like, again, I don't think they are, but, that's one way to read their current actions. So that's the best I could come up with for why they would actually do that. So I don't know. Probably just crazy talk, but figured I'd share my thoughts with you folks on that one. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Is Disney trying to torpedo everything on purpose? And if so, is that what they would attempt to do? And again, I think they're going to try to do that anyway. They'll eventually hit a point where they're like, well, the old movies, they're great and all, but just imagine if we had, current actors that we could have be in movies forever, and, we could have better special effects, and they'd sell it as some kind of upgrade when in reality it'd be a cheap cash in. But, I don't know. So anyway, like I said, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sharing and commenting on the things that help us grow the channel the most. We always appreciate it. But, yeah, other than that, I'll see you folks later. And remember, the Force will be with you always.